This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.
All right, welcome back. Jonathan Clark in the studio with one of my favorite guitar players in the world. His name is Johnny Marr, and the latest album, we'll hold it up here, is Call the Comet. Playing tonight at Irving Plaza in Manhattan and Warsaw in Brooklyn tomorrow night, and touring this month across America. All the tour dates, johnnymarr.com, and back to the UK and Europe this fall. So congratulations in order. Number one, this fantastic album, of course. We got to talk about that, and we will. But number two, British GQ Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, what does that entail? What does that mean?
You're still being alive, I guess, is probably one of the things, criteria. I don't know. It was that kind of came out of the blue. That really. I usually think that's people like George Clooney and Daniel Craig.
Don't sell yourself short. You are an example of sartorial splendor here. Well, the great leather jacket, or the faux leather, I should say.
Very important, Jonathan.
Yes.
Well, to me, part of the one of the perks of being in a rock musician was getting to wear decent clothes and having a decent haircut. It was definitely a perk. It isn't the most important thing, but
right.
It's damn important, I think.
I think you're right.
So I'm glad that to get some that someone's been paying attention.
Some GQ love. So there's got to be a ceremony, right? I mean, is there going to be a thing?
We've done, man. No, we did. What was very cool was we went and had the award ceremony, and it was in the what's called the Turbine Hall at the Tate Modern, which is one of my favourite buildings and one of my favourite places in the world. And that
was London, or
in London. Yeah, it's the Tate Modern Art Gallery, and it's an amazing gallery. I spend hours in there anyway. Going if there's a decent exhibition on. So, and the Turbine Hall is what it sounds like. It's a huge, big space. They used to have all these big turbine engines in there.
Oh, cool.
So we got to play there. And that was the thing as well, because I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I might as well bring my band down and we do a song, So we got to do a number. We did How Soon Is Now in this crazy place. So that was good,
The place must have gone nuts when you started playing that.
Well, it's pretty good because we're four people who plug into amplifiers and get behind a drum kit. There isn't any laptops involved or
right.
No, I've got nothing wrong with that if that's your bag, but we just plugged guitars into amplifiers and played a song, and that seemed to be quite a novelty.
Less importantly, what did you wear that night?
Well, I think actually probably exactly what I'm wearing now, but hey, if it's working for you, why mess with it? Why mess with perfection?
Yeah. Look at you. Well, I think we last spoke in 2016 when your autobiography came out, Set the Boy Free, which, by the way, is a fantastic read. Everybody should get that book, Johnny's memoir autobiography. And I think that took you did it take you a year to actually, you hold up for a year and you just
it was actually
focused?
Yeah. No, it took me really 9 months of, every day over that 9-month period. I was like, well, this is what I'm doing today. I'm doing the book. And occasionally, maybe if I'd been working on it, I guess, I don't know, 10, 12 days or something, I was just too burnt out or something happened, that I had to take care of. I would have a day off. But my memory of it was, it was pretty much, that's what I did for 9 months entirely, 5-6 hours a day, and sometimes longer, sometimes less. Kind of because I sort of know myself pretty well, and I know that had I not done that, if I'd let it drag out, I probably maybe would have lost the thread, or I would have lost the energy. It's one of those things, it probably would have been even more difficult.
Right.
I'd sort of given myself 2 years or something. I've got a couple of friends who've written similar kind of books. Andrew Oldham, he's written amazing books. He's one of them, and Andrew I think his books have taken 3 years to write, similar kind of
I have to read his books.
Yeah.
I follow him on Instagram and all his travels. And
Andrew's amazing.
Yeah.
I think he's got a new book coming out soon, which will be his 4th book, I think.
Stones or something different?
I think it's all about his life. I think it's where he's, from what I gather, it's probably where he's been at the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Like
so that was definitely a workout for you writing that book. But I think you were in New York. It was probably around when we last spoke in 2016. And that was, ironically, when the election happened, right?
That's right, yeah.
And Brexit had recently occurred at that point, and these events all sort of inspired this new album, but not in a political way, but sort of in a different way, as if you've sort of taken a left turn, perhaps.
No, well, it's funny actually, because when we last met, I came in I came in the day after the election, and to do a talk at the Gramercy for the book.
Right.
And because we'd been through Brexit several months before, I knew what my American friends were in for, really, if you were of a certain persuasion.
Yeah.
And and the main thing that happened to me and my friends at Brexit was like, when you get over the shock and disappointment, you then kind of go through a bit of a period of heartbreak that that a lot of your countrymen are not going your way, let's say.
Right.
And, there's no point in us getting into it, whatever. So anyway, I was here and I did the talk, and then when I was going back over to California, on the way to the airport, I had this feeling, and I came up with this line: "Now it's the dawn of the dogs." And I was just about to start working on Call the Comet, and I thought, that's a really good start of an album. Now here they come, it's the dawn of the dogs. They howl, they never let up. And so the album started off in New York City the day after the election, really.
Yeah.
I got that opening line, and that kind of kicked it off. But to answer your question, the album was actually, it was my way of escaping. The making of the record was my way of escaping from the effects and hiding away in a way. And if you're, unless you're a complete ostrich, you can't help but be at the effect. Your life is at the effect of those kind of political decisions. So bits of it crept in, but I actually intended on making a record. My protest was to actually make a non-political record.
Right.
But inevitably, because I look to the outside world and the society that I live in mostly for my inspiration rather than write about my inner world, if you like, inevitably there's a lot of songs about society in the outside world. But because I was hell-bent on not naming names, and I frankly, I didn't want to, I've said this before, but I didn't want to contaminate my catalogue,
right?
If you like,
yeah,
with these kind of characters and these concerns. I ended up
because you could get really negative if you really went
correct.
down that road,
And I didn't want to do that to the audience either. They don't want that from me. So I ended up accidentally sort of singing about alternative societies and alternative situation. And once I'd started to do that and I saw a pattern emerged, I thought, oh, hey, I can see what I'm doing here. So then I started to remember certain things about science fiction that I liked, and that led to the opening, the first single, The Tracers, and then I ended up coming up with a title called The Comet. So this alternative, I basically found a way to sing about society, and without being sullied by the present society.
Right.
Really.
Yeah. I like that. And you made this new album in your new home studio in your hometown of Manchester. And I believe you actually were spending so much time in there that you had a couch that you actually turned into a bed.
Yeah, I thought those days were behind me, actually, John.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like waking up in the control room of a studio. I guess, if you do that after you've been doing it all these years, it's either a really bad sign or it's a really good sign. Waking up on your couch is at my age, is either a really good thing or a bad thing.
Right.
And it turned out that I was so inspired, and the record kind of pulled me in. That I was working so late, and it is on the top floor of my studio is on the top floor of a factory. It's very New York, actually. It's very kind of Jasper Johns, Andy Warhol. As we all know, these spaces are kind of hard to find these days.
They are, yeah.
That aren't condos or whatever, hotels.
Banks.
Yeah, so I was very inspired to have a space like that on the outskirts of town, and that fed into the vibe of the record. some of it is industrial sound, and there's a song called New Dominions, which I started off by just putting a drum machine through a bunch of effects pedals. And I just let the beat go for hours, and the rest of the band took off and left me in the studio all night again, and I just was hearing this beat echoing around this old factory for hours, and then I finally came up with the sort of concept for it and started singing along, and a few songs ended up like that were directly informed by this industrial space.
I was going to say, did that sort of harken back to the early days of the Smiths, being in that sort of a inner city, like urban environment?
Yeah, it does, because we started off in on the top floor of a factory, which is called Crazy Face. So the new studio is called the Crazy Face Factory, and there was a few that was an aesthetic that a few bands were able to afford back then. And I know that there's a similar story in the United States, like bands like Pere Ubu and the sort of Cleveland scene in the 70s, where you had those factory spaces, and famously in Manhattan, Blondie had their own loft space, and the Talking Heads had a loft space. So it's part of, it's coming from that same place, Kraftwerk. My place is a little like Kraftwerk with guitars, really, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Human League or something like that.
Did you set up TV monitors like throughout the studio, like broadcasting cable news and stuff like that?
Yeah, and me and my friend put up these videos, projectors, and we were projecting stuff on the walls, news feeds and stuff from the Cosmos. There's a video online of us. It's only a little short clip of me and the band in the studio, with all this stuff projected on us.
Well, was that inspiring? It must have been, right? Yeah.
It was to just put a vibe, change change your consciousness, really, without, drugs are a little kind of done, I think. So, but doing it, it was ironic, really, I guess, because I was trying to escape from what was really going on in the outside world, but at the same time, I've got these 15-foot images from Fox News.
Oh my God, I'm scared already.
But it made it kind of.
I was going to say, I guess it gets Fox News in the UK.
Al Jazeera,
yeah.
But it made it psychedelic, but without it being 60s kind of trip.
Yeah.
Like a genuine sort of psychedelic experience, which is what I was looking for, and it sort of seeps into the music, I think.
Yeah. Going back a couple of years, how did you hook up with Hans Zimmer, the world-renowned film score from Batman, The Lion King, Gladiator, in case people don't know, and you contributed a lot to the soundtrack to the film Inception, I believe, too, right? How did you meet Hans Zimmer, and how did that happen?
Well, Hans is a very resourceful person, and he was working on. He'd started Inception, and he had this vision for guitars on it, and from how he tells it, they had a few people in, and it didn't really sound like he was hearing it. So he called me up out of the blue. He got my number somehow and just called me up, and he's a very. I'm not going to turn down Hans Zimmer, and I was a big fan anyway. I was a really big fan of The Thin Red Line, particularly.
Great movie.
I love that soundtrack.
Soundtrack is amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah. So. And the combination of him and Christopher Nolan and Leonardo DiCaprio and just sounded too good to miss, really. So I just jumped on a plane a couple of days later, did that. That was a really beautiful experience, and it was very successful too. So I got kind of spoiled, really, because the first proper big soundtrack I was involved with, we got a few Oscars for it. I'd done years and years before that. The first movie I was involved with was actually, I did it here again. I did it in Manhattan with Herbie Hancock. It was a Dennis Hopper film called Colours, which was about the gang.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Sean Penn, right?
And Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
So I did a bit on that in, I guess, 88, just after the Smiths split. That was kind of the first thing I did, I think. And then I hadn't done movies before that. So as I say, I've been spoilt working with Hans Zimmer, and then we've done a few things since then. We did Spider-Man, and I did a Julianne Moore film called Freeheld. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Going good.
His name is Johnny Marr, the new album called The Comet. He's playing tonight in New York City at Irving Plaza, tomorrow night at Warsaw and Brooklyn, all the tour dates in America and the UK and Europe at johnnymarr.com. Is it hard to maintain your health regimen while you're on tour? I know you love to run.
Yeah.
I know you like to eat properly and healthy, but
Yeah.
I would think a normal person who's got a 9-to-5 job, it's hard to get a workout in just like that. But like when you're touring, like, I mean, you just make time for it. You just
No, what you have to kind of cross your fingers on the road. You know, we've been on this. This is just the start of a really long run. Been on the road for about 5 weeks now, and I think you what happens is whatever you have to prioritize what you need. So if if you come through a border and you've been pulled out of the bus at 4:30 in the morning or whatever, you need, especially if you're a singer for the front man, you go, okay, all right, I really need to sleep all day now. So you need to sleep. You have to prioritize, as I say. So it's kind of tricky, to be honest, but I love it though. I think being in a band can be good for you. You know, I think the evidence, if you look at Mick Jagger, I think, I don't know how old he is.
he's in ridiculous shape. I mean, it's insane.
So he's a good advert for it. You know, Jonathan, my sort of lifestyle and my regime is purely in the service of the music, really. If I thought taking drugs and drinking would make me a better musician, I'd be doing it right now. It's not really a moral or ethical position I'm taking. I just got to a place where in my life where I thought that having a lot of energy would be good for the music.
Yeah.
That was around the time of Modest Mouse, and we were doing like 2.5 hour shows, and we wrote 19, 20 songs for that record. And then with the Cribs, we were doing a lot of touring, and that was real high energy music. And I like to think that one of the things I brought to those groups, and also definitely to my own group, is I make the tempos really up. I like playing up tempo music.
Yeah.
And if I want to continue to do that, you have to feel that way, and same with the lyrics as well. So I think, it's a decision it's not really to do with being age appropriate or anything. It's to do with attitude, I think.
Right.
So I kind of figured that, getting fit, being able to run 20 miles and all of that would be probably pretty good for my guitar playing, so that's why I do it.
And then you feel so good afterwards, right? I mean, it's so relaxing, the endorphins, the whole thing, it really probably helps out a lot.
Well, I get a lot of good ideas when I'm running. If I particularly do long distances, and I listen to music when I'm running, and it's definitely gone into the music, it's kind of a clean, positive, attitude-y energy, I think.
What's your go? Do you have a playlist for running? And if so, like who's on that?
Well, it changes from month to month. At the moment, it's quite a lot of new groups at the moment. There's I've always got I've always got a bit of Franz Ferdinand in there because they're pretty good to run to. But at the moment there's a lot of I've done a new playlist with a band out of the UK called Goat Girl who are really good. And,
heard of them, yeah.
Courtney Barnett's on there.
Wow.
Actually, now I think of it, there's quite a lot of girls going on the playlist. It just so happens that there's a lot of good music with girl bands at the moment. Pins from out of the UK. I was listening to them yesterday when I was on a run. The new Gaz Coombs record's pretty good.
Yeah.
Really good, in fact.
Have you heard of this band, Shame?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, they made a good record, huh?
Yeah. I think they've got... with Shame, I think they've got like a killer sort of record around the corner somewhere.
Right.
And I think if they can tap into that, it'll all come together, I think. The potential.
Well, they only have one album out, so.
Is it just the one?
I think it's just the one, yeah. How do you choose? I mean, getting back to that, you have a lot of material you can choose from the live show. You got 3 solo albums. You got all the other band projects you've been involved with. Yeah. You could conceivably do a concert without playing any Smith songs at all.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, maybe that will happen. Where we're at right now is we play. I think we played 10 songs from the new album, and I haven't. In all the bands I've been in,
10 out of 12, not bad.
Yeah, I've never been in a band. I don't think I've ever been in a band that plays. Whenever we put a record out, including the Smiths, that plays 10 of the new songs. So because of that, I just look at it I don't overthink it. I just think, okay, if we're playing 10 brand new songs, then you've got to give people something that they know, right? And then I pick ones that I think would have come from the vibe of this album, where me and my band are at right now. So we've been doing Last Night I Dreamt That Somebody Loved Me, because I think that sort of feels like part of the Call the Comet sort of feeling, really.
Yeah.
Call the Comet's a little bit more dramatic than the first two records. It's a bit more emotive. Songs like Walking to the Sea and Hi Hello, Day In Day Out. It is a more emotional record, and so I was like, oh, okay, then we'll bring Last Night I Dreamt into it, and electronic.
Yeah, you do a couple electronic songs, right?
Yeah. So Get the Message was a song that I always wanted to do. I actually thought it was going to be more complicated because back in the 90s when we did it, we had samplers and all of that. But my band are so good. I just mentioned it to him, and 10 minutes later, it sounded really great.
Yeah.
So I've got to really thank my band for that. Those guys can play anything without needing laptops and other musicians. You know, for a four-piece,
That's pretty good to have.
We've got it kind of covered, yeah.
I'll never forget the quote that you gave me the last time we spoke. You're in Los Angeles. You were with Chrissie Hynde, hanging out with her. A knock came at the door, and it was Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys hung out that night. And one thing that Bruce told you that night was, listen, when people buy a ticket to your concert, it's sort of a contract.
Yeah.
You know, they've been working all week and all month to afford the concert tickets. So, you know, you have a contract. You have to show up and give them what they want too, right? I mean,
yeah. That was a really amazing thing because he's the guy's got a lot of pearls of wisdom like that. And we were just talking about we were talking about shows, and he also what was cool about that was this was pre-internet when he said that, and he said, I remember him saying, like, when someone goes down to the ticket office, or when that ticket comes through the post and they stick it on the refrigerator, or they stick it on the kitchen notice board. And I really always like that because that's something we don't have anymore, you know.
Right.
But I used to do that, you know, on the rare occasion that I did.
Yeah,
buy
with a
ticket.
refrigerator magnet, right? You just put it right there on the fridge.
Yeah, I used to got your ticket stuck on your bedroom wall, and you know you're looking at it in anticipation. But that was he's you know, I've met him a couple of times, and he's very you know, he's a musician, so he likes talking about music, and he likes talking about the life of a musician, which is always fun for me because I'm the same. Musicians are very much, I think they're very like that. You know, we sort of in my experience we just get right into. We're very enthusiastic,
right?
About being musicians, I think.
I want to play a clip of you from my last interview with your good friend Noel Gallagher. This is from earlier this year.
What will happen first? A Smiths reunion, an Oasis reunion, or the Second Coming?
The Second Coming, I would have thought. I don't think there'll be a Smiths reunion, and I know for a fact there won't be an Oasis reunion, so I'm afraid the Second Coming of the Lord is what you've all got to look forward to.
He's the best, right? I mean, I just had to play that for you because
he's very wise. He's very wise, and he's very accurate. It's funny because I get asked the same question now from.
See, I wasn't going to ask you. I was going to
let it's
that,
funny.
Yeah.
Some people, including fans, sometimes, which surprises me. Recently, someone asked me the other day, genuinely, like, did I think, you know, he was going to reform first the Smiths or Oasis? I was like, well, if it's down to the Smiths, I know for a fact, I know 100% about one of those acts. So in that case, it may be Oasis.
Right.
Because it ain't going to be the Smiths, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Not if I've got anything to do with it.
Well, it's Johnny Marr, and he is with us. The latest album called The Comet. Everybody go see him tonight at Irving Plaza in Manhattan, if you can get a ticket. And then there's also Warsaw in Brooklyn tomorrow night. And if not in New York, he's touring this month across America. All the tour dates, johnnymarr.com. And back to the UK and Europe this fall for some more shows. I want to play Hi Hello, Johnny, which is just one of the excellent songs on this new album. I've been playing on the show. What more can you tell us about Hi Hello?
Hi Hello is one of those songs that, if you're lucky, they kind of fall out of the sky. You don't try too hard, and it just kind of appears. I've been very lucky that there's been a number of those over the years. You know, you always want more of them. They're the best ones.
Was that one that just sort of was like beamed to you from the music gods? I mean, did it come quickly, like, and you were like just the channeler? Or?
Yeah, because I had a 12-string acoustic, and I picked it up and sat on the couch at home one day, and it just was the first thing that I played.
Isn't that great when that happens,
Oh,
man?
it's so rare, those things, man. And yeah, so this little tune came out, and it's very simple. And the thing about it is, writing songs is an amazing thing because it is a craft, and it's also partly inspiration, and sometimes you have to really roll your sleeves up and be tenacious and stick at it, and that's where the craft bit comes in. And then some other times the inspiration, as I said, just sort of seems to fall out of the sky. But it's not the same as writing songs is not the same as poetry, because it has to sound right with the music. It's meant to be sung. It has to sound coming right. It has to sound right coming out of that singer. Unlike poetry, and it has to go with the music, and the words have to sound right. So there's a whole load of things that come into play. But one of the things with Hi Hello that came into play was that the melody was, and the vibe of the track was so, I don't know whether pretty is the right word, but kind of humane. It seemed to demand like a human story to me, which I tend to avoid. I think the world's got plenty of people singing about themselves, but in this case, that tune just said, "Look, it's got to be personal, you know. Whether you like it or not, Johnny Boy, you're either not going to do this song or you're going to have to do something personal."
Yeah.
So I kind of just, I just sang a song about someone I love, very dearly, and those songs seem to be the ones that connect with people, whether they know what the song is about or not. Other humans pick up a vibe,
right?
That it's coming from inside you, and they love that connection, and it's a beautiful thing. So it's another one of those songs that I've been very lucky to have during my career, where when you go out and play it live, if there are people in the audience who are hearing it for the first time, quite often they really they beam, often, and you just think, oh, this is a great song. This really works. I'm thinking about, I don't know, I guess Tom Petty had that every time he wrote a goddamn song.
Geez.
You know what I mean?
It's not fair, right? It wasn't fair. I mean, he wrote so many just incredible, and Mike Campbell, of course, contributed to that.
Yeah, well, just one of those songs where you get out in front of an audience, they just give it you back. They just kind of going, this is a tune. We're with you on this, whether even if it's the first time they've heard it. So that's, and I had a few of those times with the Smiths also,
Yeah.
So it's great to still have those dropping out of the sky once in a while.
I told you Billy Gibbons was here a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him the question about how many guitars, and his answer was, one's too much and 100's not enough. What's your answer?
Well, Billy, he would know. He's been collecting them for a long time. Well, in my case, it's a little different because I got to design and put out my own guitar with Fender in 2011.
Jaguar or Jazzmaster?
Yeah, it's a Jaguar, yeah.
Jaguar, yeah.
And to me, it's been perfection. So I don't need to buy any more guitars now. That's such a crock. I bought one on the road, actually. I bought an old 1947 arch top. And if you're very, very lucky and you're able to get guitars that you love, then it's an amazing thing,
It's modern art is what it is. I mean, especially those vintage ones, man. You can just hang them all over your place, man, and it's like, I'm completely addicted to them. Anyway.
Yeah, a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Well, weirdly, I don't know, in these strange times we live in economically, it's the guitars went insanely expensive at the start of this century, and then, like a lot of things, they got devalued. So Jonathan, you just buy two now. you
From your lips to God's ears, man.
You can't afford not to.
His name is Johnny Marr. Everyone go out, and I'm telling you, this is, to borrow a phrase from Dave Grohl. This is pure, like, blissful sonic highways. The music on this album, Call the Comet from Johnny. Playing tonight, Irving Plaza, Manhattan, Warsaw, and Brooklyn tomorrow night. All across America, and then back to the UK and Europe this fall. Get all the tour dates at johnnymarr.com. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Jonathan.
Come back
nice
anytime with a new record, and
Thank you, man. Yeah.
we'll play it.
Always great to be here. Thank you.
This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.